Once upon a time, in a beautiful kingdom, there lived a kind king and queen. Though they had countless riches, their hearts were still not filled with joy, for they had no child of their own. Because they were such kind and good-hearted sovereign, a blessing was finally granted to them, a beautiful daughter. To celebrate her birth, they held a grand and joyful feast. The king and queen invite 12 fairies to bless the princess, but since the palace only has 12 golden plates, they are forced to overlook the 13th fairy. In the grand palace hall, the fairies gathered around the baby's crib. One by one, they stepped forward to offer their special blessings to the princess. Upon finding out that the king invited 12 fairies but didn't invite her, the 13th fairy became very sad and angry. At this beautiful moment, the 13th fairy who was not invited suddenly appeared at the banquet. Because of her resentment, she cursed the princess to die by pricking her finger with a spindle when she was 15 years old. Just then, the 12th fairy, who hadn't yet given her blessing, stepped forward. She stood by the baby's crib and cast her spell. The kind fairy told the king and queen that the princess wouldn't die but would instead fall into a deep sleep for 100 years. After a century, a prince's kiss would awaken her. To protect against the dreaded curse, the king and queen hid every spinning wheel in the highest tower of the palace, forbidding anyone to speak of them to the princess. The princess grew up happily in the palace, carefree and full of joy. She blossomed into a beautiful young lady. And on her 15th birthday, she discovered an old spinning wheel in a forgotten tower of the castle. Driven by curiosity, she reached out to touch the spindle. As foretold, the princess pricks her finger on the spindle and immediately falls into a deep sleep. At the same time, everyone and everything in the palace falls asleep, as if time has stopped. Gradually, it transformed into a forsaken palace, abandoned by time and memories. Over time, the palace becomes covered with thick thorns, making it inaccessible. Many princes attempt to pass through the thorns to rescue the princess, but they all fail, and the princess remains asleep for many years. 100 years later, a young prince hears the story of the sleeping princess and decides to brave the wall of thorns to rescue her. Magically, as he drew near, the thorny vines parted on their own. The prince entered the palace and found that it remained untouched, as it had been a century ago. Everything, both people and animals, was asleep, the atmosphere serene yet filled with a quiet anticipation. The prince began his search throughout the palace, and at last, he found the princess sleeping peacefully in a beautifully adorned room. She lay quietly on the bed, her beauty unchanged by time. The prince gently kissed the princess, following the ancient prophecy. She awoke in a glow of magical light.
I know. One day, my prince will come.
As she stirred, it felt as if the entire palace was also waking from a long slumber. The once abandoned castle was now filled with life once again. The prince and princess were finally wed, embarking on a life of happiness together. Their story became a cherished legend throughout the kingdom, symbolizing the triumph of true love and courage. The story of Sleeping Beauty teaches us 6 important lessons. First, patience and hope. The story of Sleeping Beauty teaches us that no matter how long the wait, good things will eventually come to those who are patient and hopeful. Just like how the princess waited for 100 years, we should always keep hope alive in difficult times. Second, kindness triumphs. Despite the curse placed on her, the kindness of the other fairies and the love of the prince ultimately triumph over evil. This shows that kindness and love are stronger than hate and can break even the darkest spells. Third, the importance of support. The story highlights the importance of those who support us in our lives, whether it's family, friends, or mentors. Just like how the fairies helped the princess, we should appreciate and rely on the people who care for us. Fourth, courage in the face of challenges. The prince's bravery in overcoming the thorny barriers to save the princess teaches us to be courageous and not fear challenges in life. Fifth, every ending is a new beginning. The happy ending of Sleeping Beauty's story reminds us that every ending, even after long struggles, can be a new beginning filled with hope, love, and joy. Last but not least, sometimes, even when we try our best to be fair and kind, we may still make decisions that unintentionally hurt others. The king only had 12 golden plates, so he invited only 12 fairies, but this left one fairy feeling left out and upset. It's important to remember that everyone has feelings, and including everyone when we can is a way to show kindness and avoid misunderstandings. Ultimately, Sleeping Beauty's story teaches us the value of patience, the power of kindness, the importance of support, the courage to face challenges, the hope in new beginnings, and the need to consider others' feelings.